Hey everybody, welcome back. It is episode 13.
Woo, 13. How has your last couple weeks been?
You know what? They've been pretty good. I am feeling pretty proud because for the first time in my life ever, I have a little flower bed.
Aww.
I've never had any kind of gardens. So we moved into our house 13 years ago. And then we did nothing with the flower beds that we were here. We kind of we took like a, you know what, go with God kind of approach. We let them rewild, and I didn't know anything about plants. When I started my job at the company that I'm with now 5 years ago, they gave me a plant in a pot. Everybody that starts at this company, actually, I don't know if they do this anymore now that we're all in this context of working at home, and we've been doing this for a year. But like before that, everybody, when they start, they get a plant. And I was like, holy shit, what are you doing? That is a lot of pressure to put on me. I've never kept a plant alive before. I kept that plant alive. And
Ooh,
I was
still?
I gave it to somebody else because they moved me to a desk that had it was in a spot with no sun. And I was like, well, okay, if I have to move, then like the person who gets my desk also gets my plant. But I felt confident enough that I could keep plants, and I actually have a lot of plants around the house now. I think I have, 20 or 30 plants around the house.
Wow.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have quite a few plants. And this year, Neil was like, the last few years, Neil keeps saying, I mean, you really like plants. Do you want to try gardening? And then this is the year where he's like, I mean, come on. And so he hired some people to come and unfuck the flower bed. And they just like ripped all that shit out. And he's like, so what are you going to do about it? And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So he was talking to our next door neighbor, who kind of went through a similar process a few years ago, and so she is farther ahead than me. My problem is that when I don't know what I don't know about something, I kind of get stuck.
Okay.
So with this, my problem is that I didn't know, like, I don't know what kind of plants work well in Calgary because you can get snow any time of year here.
Right.
Our soil is very clay-based. I don't know about like sun versus shade. I don't know anything.
Same.
Like anything. But you know who does know? Stacy. My friend Stacy, who lives next door and is one of my best friends. Actually, we've talked about Stacy before because Stacy is the friend who recommended The Long Way to, well, it's the book by Becky Chambers that also has a long title. What is it? Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet? I don't know. I probably got the title wrong. But anyway, when Stacy tells you to do something, you can trust her because Stacy knows her shit about everything. She's just one of those people that, like, she is authoritative and she is correct. And you believe her. She always is correct. I always believe her.
Good.
And so she was so excited because she had, like, ordered all of her plants, but, like, she was like, I can help you. And so she's also an artist. And so she, like, drew out... She drew the flower bed for me, and so she planned it, and then she kind of coached me and came over and planted alongside me. My muscles are sore now. I am so glad that I've been working out for a year and a half. Holy shit, Kris. Gardening is a workout, and now I feel like I had a good workout yesterday. It's like the good sore muscles, because if I hadn't done that, I would be obliterated and we would not be recording the podcast today. Because I would not be vertical. The other thing that I appreciate about Stacy, something that we kind of bonded over, because she chose most of the plants, but I also chose some as well. And we have a similar thing for how we chose certain plants, which is that we chose them based on their names. For example, we both chose daylilies, and she chose daylilies that were called Primal Scream. Because how do you not choose a daylily called Primal Scream? And I chose the daylilies that were called Nosferatu because, of course, I'm going to choose a daylily that's called Nosferatu. That is the best thing I've ever heard in my life.
That's amazing.
But she had asked me as she was planning, she's like, do you want to get annuals or perennials? And I said, what is the difference? And she's like, well, annuals, like, you plant them and they die. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Why have annuals?
No.
No.
Like, I get that, like, there's a chance perennials might die, mostly because I don't know what I'm doing. And, like, I'm going to try my best, and if they die because of my lack of skill, well, that's a thing that happens. But I'm hoping lilies, not to murder.
They're resilient. They are truly resilient.
That's the hope.
They'll come back. Yeah, they'll come back.
That's
I promise
the hope.
That.
But, like, I'm not going to buy things that I know are going to die at the end of the year. Hell no. I want, like, so I'm starting with this small bed. I have the other beds we put kind of like some shrubs and trees and shit, and we'll see kind of how they grow up and out. But, like, I want stuff I can add to, and then eventually I don't have to add anything anymore.
Right.
I just need to, like, murder the weeds.
Right.
As they come.
But not murder the plants or the flowers. You don't want to do that.
No, but it was so funny because when we were doing it yesterday as we were doing the planting, Stacy was like, "Are you okay if I'm, like, telling you what to do?" And I'm like, "No, tell me what to do like I'm 5 because I literally don't know what to do." And she's like, "Did your mom have flower beds?" And I said, yes.
Nobody pays attention when they're a kid at flowers.
Well, and I remember my mom sending me out to do the weeding and then getting scolded because I was pulling out flowers because I didn't know what were weeds and what were flowers.
They all look the same.
And guess who didn't weed again? And I was not Sabbath. I was not doing, like that thing.
On purpose,
yeah. No, I wasn't doing it on purpose to never have to do it again. I genuinely didn't know because I remember, like, on the schoolyard, like, the clover, like, those weeds where, like, they're flower weeds. They're pretty.
They are pretty.
So yeah, that's the big excitement at the Scott house. We might have flowers if I don't kill them before they bloom.
I think you'll be fine. I like perennials. I'd planted some lilies as well, just because they are resilient and sometimes they multiply.
Oh, so
nice.
There could be a lot of Nosferatus and a bunch of primal screaming happening up in this house.
I know. So, like, my thing is my tattoos on my body are all flower motifs. And actually, I have a lily on my shoulder, so I dig lilies.
Very nice. Actually, my left arm sleeve is all flowers as well. Although none of them, nobody else, but you can see this, but I'm, like, twisting my arm around to check. None of them are lilies because they're the flowers that my grandmother grew. So I have carnations and pansies and roses and violets, and then up kind of the back of the triceps are gladiolas.
So you're a flower child.
Yes, ish. So the other exciting thing that happened over the last couple of weeks that your patrons would know about, but maybe not everybody else, is that we did another episode of Drunk Lesfic.
We did, and it was fun. It was a good time.
It was a lot of fun.
We had, so Tegan Shepard, she had reached out and she wanted to do Drunk Lesfic because we both had books coming out, I guess, June 1st at our respective publishing companies, June 1st. And I think Tegan's comes out general release on the 22nd of June, and mine is the 15th of June. That's not guilty. Britt Writer. So not really me, but sort of me. Yes. So we decided we actually FaceTimed a half an hour before our Drunk Lesfic to drink a martini together, just like to start it. And then we popped on over to the Zoom call, and we started our conversation and started the video that way. Because, we kind of wanted just to, get comfortable and just kind of hang out for a little bit. Like you would if you were, like, somewhere else. You were getting ready to do something. You would hang out and chat. So we did. By the end of it, I had 3 lemon drop martinis. Tegan, I think, only had 1, I couldn't even say books. I had the hardest time saying books. So, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the book, Swipe Right. See, I'm totally sober and I have a hard time saying that. But it was a romance, a contemporary romance, and had to do, of course, with dating apps and swiping right. It was a really good book. I liked it.
I still haven't read it yet. I'm a delinquent who's been playing a lot of video games lately. and gardening.
Okay. And gardening. You've had a lot going on. I have not.
It's been busy. But I'm excited about that one. It sounds super cute. And it was a lot of fun. And you guys got a lot less drunk than you and Rae did during the first one. And so it was a lot easier to moderate, I'm not gonna lie. And then also Tegan and I went way off
I
track.
left. I had to leave for a little bit. I picked up my phone and just started checking my emails because I lost them both to games. Never mention games during Drunk Lesfic. Any sort of games, video games, forget it. Like, just don't.
I felt so bad. I hope it was at least fun for your patrons
to
listen to.
I'm hoping so. We're actually gonna, I think we're gonna publish it live and have a lot of people, anybody who wants to see it can see it.
I think Mass Effect fans are gonna love that part of it.
For sure. And I'm like, Mass Effect? And I only know that because of our last podcast when you started talking about it. And it was funny because then after Drunk Lesfic and the last podcast dropped, Tegan reached out and she's like, I'm super sorry I didn't realize you guys had talked about it on the podcast, and then during Drunk Lesfic, expanded on it. So
no,
I was like, that's totally okay. Fun. I got caught up on emails, text messages. I was good. I was totally entertaining myself. So it was fun. We had a good time. It's kind of a fun thing because everybody's more relaxed and you don't have to worry so much about saying either the right or the wrong things. It's just fun. And it's kind of like, your truths come out when you have been drinking. And I feel like we were both very truthful about the stories and the representation in the stories and how much we liked it. And it was a good time. I had fun. I didn't think I would do another one, but I think this is going to be a thing.
Oh. So if you want to have a listen as Brit Ryder / Kris Bryan and Tegan Shepard get kind of drunk and talk about each other's new releases, just head on over to Kris's Patreon. We will include a link in the show notes to this episode, and you just have to become a patron. Remember, all the money goes to a good cause. I believe does it still go to buying wet food for animal shelters?
So what we've done, it first started out as buying wet food for dogs and cats, older senior dogs and cats at shelters who couldn't eat kibble. It's more expensive to buy wet food for animals than it is for, the kibble. A lot of places donate kibble, like Purina and things like that. They donate a lot of kibble to shelters around the country. So I just decided, well, let's get some wet food out to, something to do. We were down in quarantine. We couldn't do anything, go anywhere, and I kind of want to get in front of people. And so I just decided to open up this patron page and do this. And so now it's kind of grown. And so what we do is every month now is we pick a certain patron and have them give us the shelter of their choice. And then I go online and I find the shelter's wish list. A lot of times they have an Amazon wish list. And so what I do is I just go ahead and take our pledges for the month and buy everything I can from the wish list and send it directly to that patron so that they can get involved and then take all this stuff to the actual shelter that they chose. So it's kind of fun. It gets everybody involved, and then they send pictures, and it's a fun little group that we have.
There you go. So the money goes to a good cause, and you get to watch two authors get pretty drunk, have fun talking about each other's books, and then me completely sober, still kind of acting like I'm a little bit drunk because I get so excited talking about one of my favorite ships of all time. What more could you ask for? I don't know.
It was, it's a lot of fun. Plus, I also do a lot of, I interview a lot of writers and other people. It's not just, all about me. It's about what other people, I've had Melissa Braden on, I've had Georgia Beers. My next guest is Finian Burnett.
Very good.
I know, so that's going to be fun. So anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about a couple other things about our podcast. So we want to give a massive thank you as the ratings and the reviews continue to come in on Apple Podcasts. So I'm going to read one of them. Karen from Virginia Beach says Karelia recommended as her favorite podcast and shares it in her review. I don't listen to many different podcasts, but I never miss this one. I always get a show or movie recommendation I might not otherwise have known about. Love it. So thank you, Karen. So as you can tell, every rating and review matters because they really do help other listeners find the show so they can enjoy our shenanigans, hopefully, and also walk away with a recommendation, whether it's a movie or a book or TV show. So thank you very much, Karen, for your nice review.
Thank you, Karen. That's so sweet. We're so I don't know. I love hearing that it's your favorite podcast, but I also just love hearing that, not only do you love hearing us be silly every week, but that you're walking away with, some really meaningful recommendations.
Right.
And now it's time for listener questions. The first one, Kris, is actually for you. Jenny from Twitter asks, Kris, where do you write? Do you write everywhere, or do you actually have somewhere special that you write?
Well, pre-pandemic, I used to write on the weekends with KB Draper, who's an indie writer, and we would meet at the Roastery in Kansas City, and we'd write for 5-hour blocks, either the Roastery coffee shop, or we would go to the Opera House down in the River Market in Kansas City and write there for 4 or 5 hours. But I pretty much just write wherever I can. It's never I can never set up a favorite place because I always need to have stuff going on. I like to be in a place where there's loud noises. Believe it or not, I'm the weird person that my mind likes to focus on that while the other half of my brain is actually writing. So I don't like quiet time. Mm-hmm. Quiet time for me to write, I don't need that. I can write on my lunch hour at work with all the noises going on if I'm in the office. But usually if I'm writing, I have the TV on and I'm on my couch writing. So I have to have noise. I have to have that.
That's pretty cool. I can't. I mean, obviously I don't write books like you. I can't write. So the funny thing is, I don't think most people know this. I actually have to do a lot of writing for my job at work. I'm a product marketer, which means I'm writing all the time. So I have to write messaging, that kind of thing. And I can't write if there's lyrics to music, but I also need to have some kind of sound all the time. So I listen to a lot of electronic music. But my favorite place to read, if I have a choice, it either needs to be very quiet, so it's at night when my whole family is asleep, or the airport.
That's so loud.
Fucking love reading at airports. Because also, nobody's going to bug you at an airport because nobody wants to talk to anybody else.
Wrong.
What?
That's wrong.
What's wrong?
If you have your laptop out and it's a crowded space.
Yeah.
I specifically remember I was flying back from Philadelphia and I was sitting in a chair and I actually had I was writing a book and so I'm writing and this lady next to me literally leans into my space to read what I'm reading or writing.
That's demented.
But it happens a lot. When I open a book,
she was
people
raised
want to
wrong.
see what you're doing. Well, a lot of people were raised wrong because it happens a lot to me. So I feel like my bubble at an airport is so small, there's no way I could do it.
Oh, I always have my Kindle.
Well, still, for some reason, people just zip, look, here's somebody sitting here. I'm going to sit right next to her. Even though, the whole place is open. That always amazes me. So then I, get up and, go get a drink and then go sit somewhere else. But airports, no.
I wonder if I give off more fuck off vibes than you do.
Maybe. I'm going to have to look meaner.
Right? Just start growling at people, bite them a little bit.
Yeah, so, but reading, the best place for me to read is my hammock. Hands down, love my hammock. Love it! Mm-hmm. And I love to read out there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you want to read the next question?
Yes! So, Fangirl Loves Pizza on Twitter says, love the podcast. Do y'all have 3 top fave ships? Tara, I'm going to turn this over to you.
I actually do. Of course, the funny thing is, I really only have 3 ships total. Oh. So it kind of works out perfectly. No, that's not true. I'll occasionally kind of dip my toe in. There are times when I want to read a particular scenario. And that's where fanfic can be helpful because you can go on to Archive of Our Own. I remember there was a day when I really just wanted to read a coffee shop story. And that's the nice thing is you can go in and you can just search for, I was able to search for coffee shop, FF pairings, sort by kudos. That's kind of my favorite thing is if I sort by kudos, that's usually the way to help me know, because whatever has the most, I take that as a sign of endorsement because it's that's the way you know that people really, really liked it. And I can get good stories that way. And so it might be coffee shop, it might be one bed, stranded kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't know, fanfic is awesome for tropey goodness. So, like,
Right.
if I'm feeling like I want a trope, then that's kind of a way I'll go. But I, like many people, am pretty loyal to a couple of particular ships. My absolute, hands down, ride or die has been for, I'm trying to think how long it's been. Probably it's been 4 or 5 years, has to be Mirandy, which is Miranda Priestley and Andy Sachs from Devil Wears Prada. I fucking love it. I cannot get enough of it. And it's a really, really active fandom as well. That movie's been out for 13 years or something like that. It's been out forever. I'm also going to say a thing. It's kind of controversial.
Oh.
I don't actually really love the movie. I've never read the book. I'm not interested in the book. And actually, the people that write the fanfic don't like the book either. But the fanfic, some of it is incredible. And I mean, the best of the best, I think most people agree is Truth and Measure by Telanu, which if you haven't read it, you have to read it. It will, ruin your life and put it back together again. It is so good. It is almost 300,000 words.
Wow.
I think I've read it 4 or 5 times now. It's so freaking good. And actually, Telanu is also known as Roslyn Sinclair, the Lesfic author. And so a couple of her other Mirandy stories have been rewritten as original fiction. So The Lily and the Crown and The X Ingredient, which, if you've read the fanfic versions, The Lily and the Crown is somewhat similar to the fanfic version. The X Ingredient is completely different from the fanfic version, which is interesting because the X Ingredient is still very much set in that, workplace scenario. But, in the fanfic one, it was... the setup is Andy starts to work for Miranda and finds out that Miranda's employees have an extra task, which is that they have to get Miranda off. And Andy's like, well, I'm going to do it so good that I'm going to wreck her life. And then she does. But of course, how is that going to work as published fiction? Because with fanfic, basically, anything goes, right?
Right.
With published fic, especially post Me Too, how is that ever possibly going to happen?
Right.
And the way it was rewritten, hats off to Roslyn Sinclair because it was masterfully done. It's a really excellent book. But there are many, many other excellent authors doing fantastic things in that area. Jen Stanley, I think, did a series. The name completely escapes me at the moment, but it's very, very good. And Lee Winter's book, The Brutal Truth, actually began as a Mirandy fanfic, and then was rewritten as original fic. So, also, one other to plug, there is one called Not Everyone by SpacedMuch, which is so wonderful. Really excellent. You can find it on Archive of Our Own. The follow-up is called Pure Shores, and it is one of the most painful things I've ever read in the whole of my life. Part of which might have been because when I was reading it, it was not completed. But it's like you get the happily ever after in Not Everyone, and then you get the most painful breakup in Pure Shores. And I'm not sure I've actually fully recovered, even years later, from that. My second, we'll call my runner-up, my next other favorite ship is Swan Queen, or Emma and Regina from Once Upon a Time. The other hilarious thing about this is that I have only ever seen one episode of Once Upon a Time. I never got into this show.
Me neither. I never even saw one episode.
No! But I was kind of drawn to it for similar reasons to why I was drawn to Mirandy, because of the Ice Queen element. Now, of course, Mirandy has a couple of other things going for it in that, I love age gap stories, and at the time I was really into workplace romances, and I'm not, quite as much now. Again, like I mentioned, Me Too kind of adds, a a layer of ickiness that I'm not as comfortable with anymore. But like Swan King doesn't have that, so that's nice. So it really just has, instead, it has the definite Ice Queen, also has the rich girl, poor girl dynamic, works really, really well. And if you read enough of the fanfic, you kind of end up understanding enough of the world that it really doesn't matter if you've watched the show or not. You just kind of get into these characters. It has the enemies to lovers going on really well. So I really love that. And the two writers that are just awesome, writing some really stunning, both long form and short works, are Coalition Girl and Stars That Burn. And then my last one, which if you do sign up for Kris's Patreon, and you do listen to that drunk lesfic or watch that video, you will see Tegan Shepard and I go on at length about this. It's very much a rare pair, which means there is not very much fanfic written about these two, but they are Arya Shalok and Tivos from the Mass Effect series. And very specifically for me, it is reading about them as Rae D. Magdon. Rae D. Magdon has written her own, she's written quite a bit of original fiction. She's published by Desert Palm Press. I think almost exclusively. I could be wrong about that. But she has written so much fanfic. Like, she writes a staggering amount of fanfic. And she's written a ton of, like, Mass Effect, Legend of Korra, She-Ra, like the new She-Ra series.
Oh, right.
I'm probably missing a bunch of other things because I can't keep up on all the things. But, like, for me, the Mass Effect fanfic is it's so fantastic. But this pairing in particular, I just adore. And the thing to know going into it is that Tivos is a very high-ranking government official, and Arya is the head of a major criminal enterprise. And it's so good.
Am I going to lose you again to Mass Effect for the third time? No.
No. But it's
okay,
like, I think I'm also...
Just checking.
I also am like very much in my feelings about this because, as we discussed in the last episode, I am playing through Mass Effect again. And so I'm feeling very nostalgic about this. I might have to go back and reread that series. So yes, those are my three. I love them. I kind of feel like I'm probably always going to be reading, especially those first two pairings. I'm probably always going to read at least a couple, 10, I don't know, a year. We'll always be reading at least a bit in those fandoms.
Good.
So, on a totally different note, I think a lot of people listening probably would have seen that recently the completely awesome website Autostraddle recently put out a survey on their website that I know a lot of our mutual followers on Twitter had a lot of fun with. And it was a survey that lets you see the job that you would have in a lesbian romance. And we thought that we could just take this survey together. Yes.
I think it's great. Let's do it.
But first, I thought, Kris, you're a lesbian romance author. How do you go about choosing jobs for your characters?
I would say that I look for jobs that interest me because I'm going to have to do a lot of research on it, or jobs that help the storyline. Like in my book, Listen, my character, she was really into math and stuff, and I know nothing of math, so... But I needed her to have that that background because of the whole music aspect of it. And so I kind of pick it just based on whether or not I like the job or that it's going to advance the story somehow. Or, like Whirlwind Romance, I write about storm chasing. And because I'm petrified and completely fascinated with tornadoes. So it all depends on, basically it's what I like, because I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this book between writing it, editing it, and then getting it ready for publication. It's just, I have to really like something a lot to be in it that deep. So it's more or less like right now I'm trying to come up with the next idea. I'm writing one, but I have to come up with something for the next book, and I'm really struggling because, you want to pick something that's current events type thing, and it's hard because like right now my mind's spinning because I'm doing a lot of things at once, and so I need to take like an hour out of my life and just come up with the next story idea, and it has to be something that is a job that people can relate to, that people are going to want to read about, and that kind of falls under the whole sweet romance guidelines.
Are you open to suggestions?
I can't really go on suggestions. Yes, I like from you for sure. But a lot of times, I mean, some people will send me emails and messages and say, hey, you should write about this. But then if I write about that, where did that come from? Is it just like somebody wants me to write another book that sounds very similar to this author's book? So I have to be careful that my ideas are not necessarily original, but original to me. They can just throw out a job. Hey, maybe you should write about, somebody like a baker. Like, yeah, okay, cool. We've done a lot of baker stories in this world. Mm-hmm. And, maybe I could put a spin on it type thing. But I have to be careful that it's not somebody else's story seeps into mine type thing. So I'm pretty careful about, I come up with an idea or, I'll totally trust you because you read like a bazillion books a year. So I can mm-hmm. trust that you're not going to give me something that somebody else has already done. Or if there's not a lot of books written about this certain career.
Well, I'm pretty sure nobody's written about a cat psychologist, if you want to get all over that.
Cat psychologist. Yeah, yeah, no, I don't know. Like, I'd have to Google, I know. I have to Google cat psychologist because I think I know cats pretty well. Just saying. I could probably do it.
All right, what job are we hoping this is going to give us before we dive in? What do you think?
I have no idea what the options are. So let's just wing it.
All right.
Let's wing it.
I'm gonna say doctor.
I'm probably going to it'll probably be librarian or something for me.
Oh, could be a librarian.
That's even one.
Okay.
So here's the thing. All right.
Okay. First question: how comfortable are you at telling people what to do? So, Jesus,
it's my superpower. It's my superpower.
It's your superpower. Well, okay, but we're doing this together. So, how comfortable are we at telling people what to do? Very, as long as it's be a good boy. No. Weird. I don't even have to try. People just do what I say. Interesting.
That is interesting.
Can't we all just work together and hopefully stuff will get done? No, not
me.
I'm happy to demand anything I want. I feel like that's probably the one. I'm just going to click.
Yeah, click that until we come up with something better.
I'm a team player, but I can take charge in an emergency. You got your meh face on. Nobody can see that, so I thought I'd say it out loud. I'd rather go it alone. No, also your meh face. Okay, I like it when someone else takes charge, as in really like it.
We're talking about jobs, right? Okay, no.
Yeah, these are jobs. I may as well shout at the wall for all the good it would do. No. Okay, so I'm happy to demand anything I want. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Pick a jacket. Okay, they can't see, but there is an oversized leather jacket.
Kind of like a motorcycle jacket.
Yeah. There is a cute blazer.
No, that's a no for me.
There's a gingham jacket that is not doing it for me.
It looks like flannel, pink and gray flannel-ish jacket. Maybe,
there's
I don't know.
Billy Porter being fabulous in some,
it would be hard to drive. Yeah.
But I mean, it's Billy Porter, so good for him. The hoodie?
The hoodie, I mean, I wear a lot of hoodies, but that's because I'm also home.
Same, but I also wear them out, if I'm honest. There's a doctor jacket.
It's too white. Ooh, I like that one.
This blazer.
I like it, but that's okay. Let's see what else we got.
It's a very nice Gucci blazer. Or there is a puffy vest. Okay, so out of those 6 or whoever, I think that one's good. The one we picked. Yeah, let's go.
You want to go with that one?
Yeah, let's go with that one. Okay, you are on a plane and the man next to you starts to talk about Bitcoin. What do you do? Is there an option to just pork chop him in the neck? Like you just straight up take
the worst.
Get security to eject him from your plane is the third option. I'm going to just click on that and then we'll see what the other ones are.
Okay.
Pretend to listen while you're secretly watching Carol on the in-flight entertainment. No. Signal to the air steward to fake a medical emergency that you must rush to help with. No. Feed him dairy-free dulce de leche. No.
Right.
I'm not even going to finish reading that sentence. I'm not feeding this stranger.
Right.
Fake an incoming call from your boss despite having no signal.
On a plane.
That's kind of funny.
That is kind of funny.
Laugh in his face at the concept you have money to invest in anything. We just chose the Gucci jacket.
I know. So we can't really say that.
Try and distract him with pictures of your dog. The last one, nod and smile while mentally composing a Pulitzer Prize-winning story called Assholes Who Talk About Bitcoin.
That's pretty good.
That one, I think?
I think so. I think you're right. Okay.
Your BFF just moved to a new place. What do you get them as a housewarming gift? A bottle of $2 Chuck? No.
Oh.
A gingham top Kilner jar containing a sourdough starter?
No.
Probably not. A rabbit microchipped with up-to-date vaccination certificate? Probably not. An oversized bouquet of flowers?
No. I don't think so.
No.
Actually, my BFF did just move and got a new place. So. Yeah.
What did you get them?
Honestly, I don't remember. I say just. It was over the summer.
Oh, okay.
I say just. So it's over during the pandemic they moved. KB Draper, she moved. So.
Oh.
Yeah. And I honestly can't remember what I got her, but I feel like so far it would have been none of these.
No. A minimalist but extremely expensive artwork?
Maybe.
I feel like this is our closest so far. Let's
closest
click
so
and we
far.
can change it. A first aid kit?
So you laugh at that, but let me tell you something. I am known in my family as a mother hen. Like for Christmas, my sister, one of her Christmas gifts, she had just purchased a lake house. So I bought her one of those huge, massive fire extinguishers. Because nobody thinks about a fire extinguisher.
That's fair.
So first aid kit. Yeah, that's true. They don't. So first aid kit isn't too far. I mean, isn't too far from something I would do.
It is useful.
Not for my BFF though.
No.
So
the artwork is better. Okay.
So yeah.
A copy of The Home Edit, a guide to organizing and realizing your house goals. Absolutely not.
Horrible.
Okay.
No.
A doorbell with a video camera for snooping on your neighborhood.
That probably is pretty good. Like the Ring. I can't tell you how much I pull up my Ring on a daily basis.
Yeah, okay, we'll get that one.
Do you think so? I mean, I'm good for either one, the artwork or the doorbell. I'll let you make that decision.
I feel like the person who would compose the story, Assholes Who Talk About Bitcoin, would want to be able to snoop on the neighborhood.
That's true. I think you're right. So let's stick with the doorbell. Okay.
You suspect someone's been stealing your lunch from the shared work fridge. What do you do? Oh my god, the first one is so good. Steal someone else's lunch as compensation.
No.
Make a dramatic scene until the culprit gives it back. Bring in lunch for everybody the next day. Someone must be struggling for cash if they had to steal yours. I don't think so.
Nah, they're just dicks.
Fire everyone? Probably not.
No.
Interview everyone involved and write a detailed oral history of the lunchroom thief. Who has time for that?
Nobody.
Who cares? You're not getting a lunch break anyway.
Nope.
Grab a bite to eat when you're next sent out on errands?
No.
If you get desperate, that kitty kibble can't be too bad, can it? That's disgusting.
No. So, I would make a dramatic scene until the culprit. I have no problem. Yeah. I am that person who will confront. At work, I'm a totally different person.
Yeah.
Like, people are kind of scared of me at work.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they are. It's weird. It's so weird because it's like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I'm a totally different person at work than I am in real life. And I just feel like I'm there to work. You know, if somebody's going to get in my way to prevent me from whether it's eating my lunch or doing my job, I'm going to get in your face. we're just going to, like, I had one time the admin person said something as I was walking away, and I just stopped and I turned around and I went back to her. I go, we're not going to do this. I need to know what is going on right now. What is your problem right now with me? And it wasn't like, what's your problem? It's like, it was like very, very calm.
Yeah.
You know, I need to know what is the matter. What do you have against me right now? Why did you just say what you did? And people don't like confrontations at work. No. I'll tell you that. They do not like it. I mean, people don't like confrontations in life. But, like, work, I don't have time. I do not have time for people to drag down my job or have emotional outbursts at something I have said, so like I nip it in the bud right away. I just do. I'm there to work.
Right.
I'm there to play. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like I would make a dramatic scene, and I would just be like, okay, I would like get on the intercom system and say, all right, who's the asshole who took my lunch? Like, I will lock the doors. Nobody's leaving until I smell your breath. If I know what you're eating and it's my food, we're gonna no. I wouldn't be like that, but I would definitely like go to everybody and did you eat my lunch?
So wait, does that mean then that you would interview everyone and write the detailed oral history of
No,
the lunch?
I would not write the detail. I would interview everyone, but I would not write the detailed history. So I feel like
dramatic
maybe if
scene.
I feel like I would make a dramatic scene.
Okay.
Just like, who the hell ate my lunch? Bring it, you owe me something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now we need to pick a mode of transport.
Okay.
We have a speedboat.
Okay.
We have
It's like an ice cream truck. Is that an ice cream truck, sort of? But no ice cream?
Yeah.
It's not a Chester the Molester van. It is not that.
Are you sure?
The sliding door looks... It's almost like a UPS snub-nosed truck, but it's white.
They're real.
But it's got that sliding door. Let me get your package.
It's like a real old van. It's like they were afraid to use a proper VW van.
Right.
Like they
we all know we'd pick that.
Right. It's like they were afraid to use it for, like, licensing purposes or something like that.
True, probably.
There's a stretch limousine. There is
an ambulance.
We are definitely not going to be doctors. There's a subway. There is some old-ass rickety bike. There is a Subaru. And there's a motorcycle. Yeah, I feel... like, it's probably the Subaru, right? Like, it's the only one that I'm literally willing to drive out of all of these.
No, that's true.
All right, fatal flaw, just one. You work too much. Enable people's worst habits. Vanity. You care about everyone except yourself. No. You let everyone trample all over you. No. Your employability is inverse to your level of education. You feel things too much, or nosiness.
Oh, pick a flaw. I'm either going to say, for me, personally, I either work too much or my nosiness. One of the two.
Let's go with nosiness. I think that would be more fun.
Yeah, I think so too.
Pick a classic 80s or 90s film.
Oh, yes.
Flatliners, Broadcast News, Working Girl, Mystic Pizza, Beethoven, Bowfinger, Jumpin' Jack Flash, and Clerks.
Oh, 3 of those jump out at me right away because I love 3 of them.
I'm hoping one of them is Mystic Pizza.
Yes, Mystic Pizza is one. I also love Jumping Jack Flash because Whoopi Goldberg in the movie is priceless.
Yes.
And then Clerks was way beyond its time. I feel like it's a very underrated cult classic, but at the same time, you need to be in the right frame of mind to watch it. So probably between Mystic Pizza and Jumping Jack Flash, because who doesn't like a good, I just remember Whoopi Goldberg trying to figure out what the code is, and she's like, speak English.
Let's do it. Let's do
Jumping Jack Flash. Okay.
Okay, we need to pick shoes. I don't even know how to describe these. They're very
nice. They are cap-toed Oxfords.
All right.
I sell shoes. I used to sell shoes. So I know all about shoes. I am a shoe girl.
Chris,
okay, those are just like
revealing. You're gonna describe this section. Okay.
Well, then you have your basic black pumps, then you have your like white Keds, the soccer mom, travel around, drop the kids off shoes. Ooh, then you have your little sex kitten, high-heeled, what are they called? They're like, are they rhinestones or is that like
I think so.
Like sandal, 3-inch heel type strappy heels.
Yeah.
Ah, Crocs! Crocs! Then you have your Converse, your Chucks.
Yeah.
Then you have your hiking boots.
Yeah.
And then you have your badass motorcycle.
Yeah.
Chunky black leather with buckles.
Yeah.
And laces. So.
Yeah. What do you think?
Okay, so the ones I would actually wear and do wear on a daily basis, I wear Chucks. I wear hiking boots. I wear Crocs. I'm not going to lie. I'm a freaking Croc lover. I wear them to take Molly out because they're right there by the door. I can slip them on, slip them off.
We're not choosing Crocs.
I'm just telling you my history. If I were to pick one, I'd pick either the last, like, because I have a shit ton of motorcycle shoes. Mm-hmm. I have hiking boots, and I also have Chucks. So I'm going to let you pick. This is yours.
Let's do the Chucks.
Okay. That works.
Okay. Oh my God. How many more questions? There's 3 more questions.
Cool.
Okay.
3 more. It's going to be the whole podcast.
It is going to be. You're swiping through a dating app and notice someone hot from work. What do you do? Message them immediately. Your job sucks, but if there's a potential for hookups, it may suck slightly less. Probably not. Spend 6 hours internet stalking them to see if it's worth you making a move.
No.
Ignore it. It would be inappropriate to pursue a colleague, but you can still fantasize about it. Start making inscrutable romantic gestures to convey your attraction in a way they cannot possibly understand. Kris is making rude gestures that none of you can see right now. Text them an NDA followed by a nude. Oh my God. Sign up for the same shift as them so you can flirt awkwardly for 12 hours. Say nothing and spend the remainder of your working life pining for them. Or, this means they must be the only other queer in town. Start planning your wedding immediately. I don't know. What do you think?
I think I'd probably ignore it. I would either, like, the option isn't there.
No.
Like,
right?
Right. I think ignoring it is probably the safest thing to do anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. What is your ultimate career goal? World domination? For people to like me? Gross. Wow, that was unfiltered, but here we are. Fame, but also privacy. That's
interesting.
That's Lynn Ames's book, All That Lies Within, pretty much.
Right.
in like one tagline. To make it to retirement before I have a heart attack. That's like, but that might be my personal one.
Okay.
The pursuit of truth, to serve others the best I can, to make rent, to be honest, I just want to play with puppies.
Who doesn't want to play with puppies?
Who doesn't? Okay,
Right.
What's our character's ultimate career goal?
Fame, but also privacy, to make rent, or play with puppies. I mean, I guess my ultimate career goal, I want to write books, and I want to be good at writing books, and I want a lot of people to buy my books. So perhaps fame. But privacy, I'm all for, like, here I am,
Let's go with that one because it's hilarious.
Okay, all right.
All right. Pick a location to base your head office. Manhattan, rural New England, LA, Washington, D.C., somewhere cheap in a flyover state, Chicago, San Francisco, or any of the above.
So I have FOMO, so I feel I have to live in a city. Because as beautiful and wonderful as rural New England sounds, I gotta get close to something. I have to be, like, in the thick of it. So I'm gonna have to say somewhere where there's lots of people and there's lots of noise. I'm all about the noise.
All right.
I'm the wallflower, but I like noise. So I'm either gonna pick Manhattan. LA has water issues, so I can't really go there. Chicago, San Francisco. I would say anywhere like Manhattan or Chicago. How do you feel about this? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
I would like to pick San Francisco because I live in a cold place.
You live in a cold place. So the warmest place, like San Francisco really isn't that warm. It really isn't. It's not like LA hot. If you want hot, let's go to LA. Let's set up shop in LA.
Okay, let's go to LA.
Okay, LA.
Okay, moment of truth.
Here we go. What do we get?
We got...
It's working.
It's thinking.
What do we get? I'm so excited.
Oh.
I have to scroll down. What do we get?
We're a Hollywood actress! Wow! You didn't learn your award-winning acting skills from high school drama club, but from a lifetime of pretending to the public you are not extremely and obviously queer as fuck.
Wow.
Despite your management team feeding your fears, you'll never land a leading role if you come out and running interference every time you're seen with a woman. It's high time you turn up at an awards show and announce that you're here today because you are gay. You know what I love about this so much? I fucking love these books. They are some of my absolute favorites. Like, that's one of my favorite tropes. I love it. I will show up every single time. I actually burned myself out on celebrity romances a couple of years ago because there was like a massive run of them, and I was like, give me every one. Give me every single one. I'm going to read them all. And then I was like, I'm tired. I need a break because I read
Maybe
them all.
That's what I need to do. Maybe I need to write about a Hollywood.
Yes! Write me a
celebrity.
Hollywood. Do it. I love it. Speaking of Hollywood, Kris, what have you been reading or watching?
Okay, so I am still under the influence of The Handmaid's Tale. Every week, I go and I watch it because I have hope.
And is it getting more hopeful, or
it is getting more hopeful? I'm gaining a lot of hope watching this, so I can't wait till Wednesdays come around until I can sit down and watch it because I feel like, here's the deal. Like, some episodes, I'm like, that is the best episode. I'm so glad this happened. And there are other episodes, like, why the fuck did they waste an hour of my time? But I know that they're setting things up. I know that it's all set up. So I have to, like, say, okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, this works. So I'm still torturing myself with Handmaid's Tale.
Good.
And I just started the second season of Ragnarok came out, which is, here, let me pull up the definition of it. I saw the first season and was going to mention it. I don't think I did last year.
Is it related to Thor?
It is! Did I talk about it?
No, but
I didn't.
Thor...
Okay.
So, I believe that not only is Thor Ragnarok the best of the Thor movies, but it is actually the perfect movie if you want to have a movie for the bisexuals. Like, if you want to have, like, a bisexual movie celebration night, there's something for everybody. So,
this is a TV series on Netflix. I, for once, didn't speak into the magical remote, and I saw it's on Netflix for sure because I saw it the first time, and the character who is it's basically teenagers, Thor and Loki as teenagers, and how they come about to become who they are. So the first one really focuses on Thor discovering who he is. There's a teenager, he goes to school, and his brother. How is the second season focuses more on Loki, who is definitely queer. And it's kind of interesting because at one of the episodes I watched, I think I'm only 3 episodes in, but one of the episodes, the brother, Thor goes, he says to Loki, which they have other real names. They don't call each other Thor and Loki, but that's who they are. And he's like, are you wearing makeup? And Loki's like, yeah. And the mom walks in, she goes, I think it's great that you're discovering your, not playing, but just kind of like expressing yourself wearing, not really conforming to a specific gender. She goes, I experimented when I was 17 too. So there's like a lot of support from the mom, and Loki comes in, he's like, I feel something for somebody. And the mom's like, what's her name? And he's like, well, it's a guy. And she's like, cool. So, there's a lot of support. And so I'm excited to see what happens, not just with the whole Loki thing, but just also the queerness of it too. It's kind of fun to see him. Yeah. So I'm watching that as well. So what about you, Tara? What have you been reading and watching?
So I've been reading How to Find a Princess by Alyssa Cole. It is another book in her Runaway Royals series, which some of the books have male-female pairings, some of them have queer pairings. This is one that has 2 women. And this one is actually an Anastasia retelling, so it's cute. It has neurodivergent rep. So far, I'm not super far in it. I think I'm about 10-15% of the way through because I only read on my Kindle. I don't think in terms of pages. I think in terms of percentages.
Right, who knows with pages on a Kindle.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to read the blurb. Makeda Hicks has lost her job and her girlfriend in one fell swoop. The last thing she's in the mood for is to rehash the story of her grandmother's infamous summer fling with the runaway prince from Ibarania, or the investigator from the World Federation of Monarchies tasked with searching for Ibarania's missing heir. Yet when Besnaria crashes into her life, the sleek and sexy investigator exudes exactly the kind of chaos that organized and efficient Makeda finds irresistible, even if Bez is determined to drag her into a world of royal duty Makeda wants nothing to do with. When a threat to her grandmother's livelihood pushes Makeda to agree to return to Ibarania, Bez takes her on a transatlantic adventure with a crew of lovable weirdos, a fake marriage, and a one-bed hijinks on the high seas. When they finally make it to Eborania, they realize there's more at stake than just cash and crown, and Makeda must learn what it means to fight for what she desires and not what she feels bound to by duty. So, I wasn't super sure at first, because that first chapter where Makeda, she gets fired, and it's like, not only does she get fired, but somebody who is much worse at the job gets promoted over her, and I was like, well, this is pissing me off. Yeah. And then you see her girlfriend leaving, and the way her girlfriend leaves is really mean, and I was like, what? But then it goes on, and you meet Bez, and it's almost a farce, and it's hilarious, and it's like you meet her boss, and he's this white guy from a former monarchy in this made up, a former fake monarchy somewhere in, I believe, Europe. He's this white guy, and his family basically paid for it, and it was like a plot of land that was smaller than Vatican City, and it was only for 2 years in the 1940s. Basically just like highlighting the absurdity of monarchies anyway. And his name is like 20 letters long, but it's pronounced Smith. And I was like, what? And so it's kind of like, if you can embrace some of the silliness, it's a lot of fun. And so the point that I'm at now is like Bez has kind of crashed her way into Makeda's life. And so I'm really kind of curious to see where it goes. It's fun. Like, the setup is kind of fun now. And, you know, there's been a lot of retellings, I think, in Lesfic in the last few years. But there haven't been... I don't think I've seen one of Anastasia before. So I'm curious to see where this one goes. Oh. And especially, you know, seeing a book about 2 Black women, and especially when it's written by a Black woman, then more diverse rep is always a good thing. And so I'm pretty excited about this one. And looking forward to seeing where it goes. And then the other one that I'm not reading about right now, but I can't remember if I was talking about it a few episodes back, but I'm very excited because it's had its wide release, is The Menopause Manifesto by Dr. Jen Gunter. This book is absolutely crucial if you are going through perimenopause or menopause, if you've been through it, if you know somebody. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Dr. Jen is on a mission. This book is all about evidence-based information because, you know, a lot of the information that's out there, a lot of the things they're trying to sell to us is highly predatory because there is money to be made. There is a knowledge vacuum, and the people rushing in to try to fill it are unfortunately not always good people with our best interests in mind. And she is on a mission to empower people. And I know for myself, I personally have been having much better and more fruitful conversations with my doctor about my care. Good. And so I'm really excited about this. I signed up for her Substack and have been continuing to get more good information about that. And so the thing I like about that is because, of course, you know, a book really kind of represents the best information at that point in time. And so eventually it's going to grow stale, and so I'm going to continue following her through there. And I am going to brag a tiny bit. I actually had the opportunity to join Sarah Wendell from Smart Bitches Trashy Books as she interviewed Dr. Jen. So we interviewed her together on the Smart Bitches podcast, and if you want to have a listen to that, we will include the link in the show notes. I luckily had about a month to get used to that information, or I would have completely lost my shit because she is one of my personal heroes. I just love everything to do with Dr. Jen. Awesome. So yes, highly, highly, highly recommend that book. Yes. I will say, you know, for our non-binary and trans friends, it's not as queer friendly as I would have hoped. It's pretty focused on cis women, which I can also understand because it is very hard to get good medical help that is competent when it comes to menopause. Unfortunately, most doctors are not getting good training related to menopause, even for cisgender women. Right. But I would say that if you do have the uterus and you identify as non-binary, it's still going to have information that's really important for you to have. So I would still encourage you to check it out because, you know, as we continue through our lives and we experience that loss of estrogen, there are things that we need to do to protect our bodies, especially related to heart disease and bone density loss. Because if we don't, it can be really disastrous for health outcomes for the rest of our lives. So if you can go into it just knowing that you unfortunately might not, I'm trying to find the right way to say it. Like it might be a little difficult knowing from like the pronoun perspective, you might not get what you need, but the rest of the information is still important and powerful for protecting your body for the rest of your life. So, Kris, it's time for official recommendations. What is yours?
Well, I talked a little bit about a series that was on FX called Pride. It was a documentary series, and it's on FX. And I talked about the first episode. I'd only seen the first episode, but I figured it was probably going to be a recommendation for me, and it totally is. So this podcast, and given the fact that it is Pride Month, June is Pride Month, so it's great timing. Of course, I'm sure that was planned, but everyone needs to watch this series. It's important for our history, for queer history, especially trans rights and people of color. Like this is a great series for that. So like it goes through each decade. So the episode that I watched, the first one, was actually, the title of the episode is 1950s People Had Parties, and the rest of the titles is for every decade. So it's going to be impossible to take 6 hours worth of information and break it down in like a 10-minute recommendation. But I thought I would kind of highlight some of the important things of each decade. So the 1960s, the episode's called Riots and Revolutions. There were a lot of riots in the 60s, and everybody knows about 69 Stonewall. Like that seems to be like, everybody says, oh, that's the big breakout riot. But like, that's not true. There were so many different riots that happened prior to Stonewall that the television and newspapers didn't cover because they didn't want to give queers any sort of acknowledgement or any sort of, any sort of press. They always say, any press is good press. So they just took it out. Nobody ever talked about it. Nobody reported on it. So that was really interesting, the 60s. Pride was actually born and earned from the riots of the 60s, like the whole Pride thing. And the very first Pride parade, which really wasn't a parade, it was a protest. So like the first Prides were protests. The first one was in 1970, and it took place, in the big cities, New York, San Francisco. And they were political, and they were a way to gather and protest. And there was also the growing women's movement, just lesbians becoming, identifying with that word, actually, okay, yes, I am a lesbian. And then there are the feminists. And it was interesting because the two groups would fight. There was a huge thing about feminism, and they didn't want to be accused of being lesbians. And so the lesbians are like, well, surprise, guess what? A lot of your feminists are lesbians. So the 70s focuses a lot on the women's movement. And the 80s, of course, the AIDS pandemic. Talked about the AIDS pandemic. And how that was when I kind of was aware of life and news and activism, was in the 80s. And the AIDS thing was it was horrifying when it first came out. I still remember it. And I remember people on Johnny Carson talking about it. And I looked at my dad, I'm like, what are they talking about? What do they mean it's man-made? So I think it was Steven Seagal, of all people, said it's man-made. And I'm like, I don't understand what that means, Dad. Mm-hmm. So my dad had to explain it to me. Yeah, so the 80s was it was interesting because they asked for help. They asked the government for help, and the government just kind of blew it away. Like, oh, well, they said, this was religious groups used AIDS against the queer community, and they said it was unintended good consequences by wiping out the perverted social group. So it was really interesting, and that's when safe sex. I don't know if you remember, if you know a lot about American politics, but Nancy Reagan was like, safe sex. It was all about safe sex. And I just remember having a bumper sticker in my locker in high school saying, wrap that rascal, and it was a condom. And that was like a big thing, for me to have that in my locker. I thought for sure, I was going to go to the principal's office, and there wasn't really, freedom of speech. I was part of the newspaper. And anyway, so that was real big for me, was 80s and learning about that. And the 90s was about cultural wars. It was the first time that LGBTQ actually came up in the election, with Clinton. And everybody thought, Clinton was going to be the hero. And but he signed the DOMA Act, the Defense of Marriage Act. But then he also brought about the Defense Directive, the Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So there's a lot of history going on. And the funny thing is, the very last episode was the 2000s, just all of the 2000s up to 2020. And there's an explosion of gay exposure, like movies, televisions, shows. You remember, all of those. And then also, here's something that was really big that Obama signed into law was the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crime Prevention Act. And do you remember Matthew Shepard? Do you remember both of those? Remember that? Yeah. So here's the thing that I hate. It's like we have this crime thing that was signed into law, and yet fucking Trump just like comes in. It's like, it's okay, go ahead and do whatever you want. And so like all these people come out, and we have gone backwards because of Trump. I feel like, he's made it okay to fucking hate people again. And it's like, so, basically, in conclusion, I recommend this documentary to understand where we come from. Like, if you're a member or if you're an ally, it's important to know our history. We'll always have history. We're always going to have to fight to be heard. We're always going to have to fight to be recognized. And we're always going to have to fight for equality. And that's just a given. So I think this is an important documentary for all of us to see and know about the history. I learned a lot. There's a lot that I did not know about. So it's 6 hours, but I think it raised a lot of questions, but then it made sense to me as well. So that's my recommendation.
Especially right now. I think a lot of people forget or never knew where Pride came from. They think Pride is just corporate woke washing. You wear the t-shirt or the bracelets, you go to the party downtown, and they don't necessarily know that it came out of a struggle, and that there was it was illegal, and that there are people in our community that are literally still alive, and it was illegal at the time to be gay. And you can see it even in, like, go back and read The Swashbuckler. And you can read about that.
Right.
And right now, there are so many states introducing bills to strip away rights from trans people.
Right. And this really does focus on trans people a lot. Like through the decades it goes through, and it makes sure to discuss it, to talk about what happened, how they have changed, how there has been help along the way, and a lot of the pioneers who have helped along the way. And also, I will say this, it was really interesting. I'm sitting there watching the whole documentary, and Jewel Gomez shows up, and they interview her. I know, I was like, I know Jewel! So it's kind of cool, because, I met Jewel at GCLS, Golden Crown, the conference that they have. And so it's just really interesting, because I was like, okay, now I'm even more invested in this, because people I know are speaking out about this and are talking to people who can actually, get out there and get in front of people. So I loved it.
Well, and I don't think a lot of people understand, because sometimes the talk is like, well, being trans is new, and it's like, being trans is absolutely not new. There was so much research actually about trans experience that, like, the Nazis literally burned down and had destroyed.
Yeah. Like,
just absolutely destroyed, because literal Nazis didn't want that. And it's like, we are kind of facing a tipping point again. And so, go check this out.
Yeah, I think you would really enjoy it. I think I know for sure you'd have a lot to say about this. So I recommend it, especially to you.
Thank you. My friend. I need to see where in Canada I can get it.
Well, it's on Netflix. Like, you can get Netflix or no? Can you not get Netflix?
I can get Netflix, but you said it was on FX.
It might be through Netflix too. I'm just saying. I think that might have been one of those where I spoke into the magic remote, for sure.
I don't have a magic remote.
Well, let's look. I mean, for sure, Netflix. I mean, I said it, and it says FX, but I think it was actually through Netflix that it did it. Oh, okay. So it's one of those. Okay. So for sure, look at it. So enough about that, because I know we are like, this is going to be like a podcast that's 8 hours long. So, so Tara, what is your big recommendation for us this week?
Similar to you, it is one that I'm picking up from last week. Unlike yours, it's incredibly lighthearted.
Yeah, this is super heavy, but super informative.
So to balance out, so watch Pride, and then when you're like, woof, that was heavy but important. And then when you need a pick-me-up, get the book Satisfaction Guaranteed by Karelia Stetz-Waters, because holy shit, this book is adorable. Aww. So I'm going to start with the blurb. And it is, when it comes to her career, Cade Elgin has it all figured out. Only professional talk has become her default mode. Relationships are non-existent, and don't even mention the word orgasm. All work and no play makes Cade a dull human. But when she inherits a sex toy store, Cade is caught between business and a store filled with every imaginable kind of pleasure, including her infuriatingly irresponsible and deliciously sexy new co-owner. Selena Mathis learned the hard way that she can have too much of a good thing, which is precisely why she's taken an oath of celibacy and is focusing on how to make Satisfaction Guaranteed a success. That's the name of the story, just as an aside. She won't mess this up, not this time. But once again, Selena's emotions are getting in the way and tempting her with a serious attraction to buttoned-up Cade. But the shop isn't exactly vibing. And Kate, yeah, see what they did there? It's pretty good. And Cade and Selena are on the verge of losing both their income and the possibility of love. Can they find a way to work together before Satisfaction Guaranteed runs out of batteries?
That's
I love the puns in this.
Super
like
clever.
I hate puns so much, but like every pun in this blurb is working for me. Right. Like it's just so cute.
I'm the same. I dislike puns immensely, but yeah, I agree. This made me laugh, so that's good. So successful.
Oh my god. So this is probably going to go down as one of my favorite books this year. It is so fun and sweet and lovely, and yet it is also a really nice surprise because it deals with some really serious subject matter in really deft and delicate ways. It's a total opposites attract romance. Like, you can't really get more opposites attract than this. And so, like, Cade obviously has the job. So she runs her parents' art gallery. She's actually a co-owner with them. She and each of her parents each own like a 1/3 stake in this art gallery in New York City. And it's a really well-respected art gallery. Selena used to be an artist. She was actually in art school, and she showed really great promise. And because she was in a relationship with one of her professors who ended up pretty deeply bullying her, and that relationship crashed and burned, she kind of needed to find her way into a new life. And that's how she ended up meeting Cade's aunt, who owned the store. And so Ruth is Cade's aunt who owned the store. And Ruth hired Selena and let Selena kind of live in this little home on the back of the property. And so when Ruth dies, she leaves it to both of them. In kind of this, who knows why Ruth does what she does? Did she have a hunch that they would work together? Who knows? We never meet Ruth, but she seems to be kind of one of these, Ruth works in mysterious ways. Her store just sounds completely bonkers. Like, it's full of, like, tchotchkes and, like, what the fuck is this place? Of course, dildos all over the place and vibrators and whatever. And it's this, but, like, they each bring things that the other needs. They complement each other really well. It opens with a funeral. And, like, the opening scene is at Ruth's funeral. And I loved it. And I actually, like, I really knew that I was in for something special when I opened it on my Kindle. And the very opening lines were, Kate Elgin sat in the first pew at Whole Heart Departure's funeral home, feeling out of place because she was the only person in the room not wearing gold lame. She wore a dark suit, dry clean only, expensive. And I was like, fuck yes. Thank you for this. And like, it just was fabulous. Edibles were passed around at the funeral, by the way. And it was like, and her introduction to Selena is fabulous because Selena is giving the eulogy, and she could tell that Selena is terrified, but like she opens the eulogy by talking about the name that Ruth gave to her clitoris. And like, it was the perfect, like, I knew what this book was. Or I thought I knew what it was going to be. And it turned out to be so much more. Because, like, it is a romantic comedy. It absolutely is. But it also is this book where both of these characters are desperately seeking belonging. And I really loved that. Because Cade's parents are nuts. And I say that lovingly. Like, I don't say that in a way to, like, poke fun at mental illness, because I do not, as a person that, you know, I live with anxiety every day, I do not mean to do that. But they are painted as these very free-spirited people, and there's a running joke throughout the book about how they may or may not fill the art gallery with alpacas. And they have a running joke throughout their life about how Cade was switched at birth with a baby from a family of accountants. Because she really does, like, she is the reason why the gallery is so successful, and you can tell that it hurts. Because, you know, because there's this talk about, well, what real Elgins do. And she is the best chance at turning Satisfaction Guaranteed around. Because she is a true business person. She can, like, she gets it. But also, she doesn't know shit about fuck when it comes to the sex
product,
toys,
yeah,
right?
what they're
like,
selling.
Yeah, she doesn't know anything about that.
That's great.
Because as it says in the blurb, like, she's never had an orgasm, and she also feels tremendous shame about this. She's only had sex 6 times in her life, and it didn't go well, and so she carries this shame. And then you have Selena, who's had lots and lots of sex, and the reason she's taken this oath of celibacy is that that's actually how she medicates, is with sex. And so she's trying to figure out, okay, how do I find my place in this world? Ruth had become her anchor, and her anchor is gone. And so how does she belong now, when they have literally a month to turn everything around? And it's just beautiful. This book is so good. It is, yeah, like I said, I think it's going to go down as one of my absolute, every time I say go down, awesome. It's like, I'm like, because it's a, you know, sex is a strong theme in the story. It's lovely. It's funny. It made me laugh out loud many times. It absolutely works. I can't recommend it enough.
Good.
Absolutely, hands down, unqualified recommendation. Everything about it works for me.
Nice.
Go get it.
Woo!
Everybody. Great. It released on June 1st, so I'm not even doing that rude thing where I say go get it when it comes out. No, it's out now. Buy it. Buy it for yourself. Buy it for your friends. Oh, the other really cool thing about it is that I don't know if it's because it was an advanced reader copy, but I believe it's going to be like this when it releases. It has book club questions at the back. Okay. So actually, if you have a book club, read it with your friends.
Nice.
So, yeah, you should do. Yeah. Well, you don't have friends anymore. We've talked about this before.
That's right.
You cut ties with all your friends because they all gave you bad recommendations. So you make some friends.
I need new friends.
And then you can read this book with them. That is all for this episode. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, for listening to us, for sitting with us while we took the quiz. I hope you were as entertained as we were. If you have enjoyed the show, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. please consider leaving a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Like we said earlier, it truly does make a difference in helping other people find this. And especially like if you find our recommendations valuable, hopefully it will help somebody else find them valuable too.
Right. And if you want to connect with us on your favorite social media sites, just search for Queerly Recommended on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at podcast@queerlyrecommended.com. We're pretty vocal in all those places. So that's it. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.